I went from overthinking YouTube for years to publishing 16 videos in 6 weeks. If you've been sitting on a big goal, telling yourself you'll start soon, I know exactly how that feels. That's why in this video, I'll show you the 3 simple steps that finally made me stop procrastinating so you can finally start too. But here's the twist. It's not about motivation or time management. It's actually way simpler than that. This is the exact system I use, the same one I use inside of Goal Smash, to turn ideas into action. Let me give you a little context first. I'd wanted to start a YouTube channel for years, but I wasn't good on camera, I didn't know how to edit, and every new piece of advice overwhelmed me. You have to think about titles, thumbnails, watch time, pacing, viewer psychology. The list goes on for miles. And I'll be honest, it still feels that way. So I kept waiting for the perfect time, which never came. I didn't think much of it because I never set a clear goal to master YouTube. But then, as I was building Goal Smash to help others, I decided to test my own process on myself. I wanted to see how quickly and how well it could work on a big, lofty goal I knew I'd been procrastinating with. In just 1 month, I launched. And 6 weeks later, I had 16 videos completed. After reflecting on my progress recently and seeing how powerfully it worked, I knew I had to share it with you. Because this process doesn't just work for YouTube. It works for any goal you've been stuck on. So that's what I'll show you today. I'll start with the first thing that actually got me moving. Because I realized the reason I kept procrastinating wasn't a lack of motivation. It was how I set my goal in the first place. And getting this wrong is the biggest reason I never made progress. In fact, more than 1/4 of the people I've coached came to me stuck for this exact reason. Here's the problem. Procrastination thrives on vague goals. And that's what mine was. A big dream I fantasized about. But you can't create a clear path to something so distant. No amount of planning will solve it either. That's why the first step is to define a short-term goal. Something you can complete in a month or less. Because the closer the finish line, the clearer the path. And when you can see the path, you can finally move forward. But there's another, even more important rule about goal setting most people miss. You need to have control over the outcome. If you're starting a business, don't set a goal to make $10,000. You can't directly control that. Instead, choose a process goal. Something like schedule 20 market research calls. For YouTube, I can't control views or subscribers. So I set my goal to publish 2 videos per week for 1 month. That shift from results to reps instantly made my goal doable because I had control over the outcome. So when setting your goal, pick something you can control and complete in 30 days. All right, that brings us to step 2. Because defining your goal is one thing, but you still need to follow through every day. Everyone says be consistent. And for full transparency, I'm one of those people. But the real secret is to make being consistent easy. When I first started filming, I realized YouTube had so many moving parts. Ideation, scripting, hooks, filming, editing, thumbnails, titles. It felt endless. And each of those has dozens of their own variables. I desperately wanted to say, I'll study this a bit and then start once I'm comfortable. But that's exactly what leads to endless procrastination. So I gave myself permission to lower the bar. I would do the best I could, even if that sucked. That meant lighting could be off, delivery could be awkward, editing could be basic, and that was okay. Because my goal wasn't perfection, it was reps. And here's the wild part. Once I focused on finishing, I naturally started improving. The first video, terrible lighting. The script, not great. The packaging, mediocre, if I'm being generous. But making that first video taught me more than months of watching YouTube tutorials. And that's what matters, because insights only click once you have experiences to relate them to. This is why you can still learn new things after rereading a book years later. You have more experience for the insights to attach to. But this isn't just a YouTube hack. The same applies to your goal. Make the first step so easy it's impossible not to start. The habit is more valuable than the results of your efforts because consistent action develops your skills and helps you find better ways to achieve your goal. And that leads to better, faster results than procrastinating and trying to get it right on the first try. So, to make consistency easy, focus on small, simple wins every day. And soon you'll have momentum. But how do you keep it when motivation fades? This is where having skin in the game changes everything. A few weeks ago, I flew to California to see my family and go to my high school reunion. I barely worked while I was there, then came home exhausted and got sick for a few days. I considered skipping a week of videos, but I'd shared my goals publicly inside Goal Smash and didn't want to fail with a weak excuse. So I decided to make 3 videos for the next 2 weeks to make up for it. I stretched myself, no doubt, but I got it done and haven't missed an upload yet. And it's all because of accountability. You see, accountability turns effort into momentum. When someone or something is keeping track, your brain treats it as a commitment. That's why even a simple tracker works. Because checking a box each day gives your brain a small dopamine hit, and it gives you that nudge to stay committed. Or, if you want to multiply the effect, involve other people. Inside my Goal Smash community, we post our daily, weekly, and monthly goals publicly. When you know others are watching, quitting feels harder than showing up. And each check mark, each win, creates momentum. That momentum creates progress, and progress creates motivation. It's a loop, one that keeps you moving even when you don't feel like it. But there's one more twist that most people never realize, and it's the key to staying consistent long term. If my videos today were the same quality as my first videos, I'd probably give up soon. Because if anything kills motivation more than anything else, it's grinding hard without making progress. But too many people get this wrong. When their reps don't lead to results, they start changing everything. They try to improve too much at once, but that leads to overwhelm and no learning. You're simply spread too thin. Instead, resist the urge to overhaul everything and improve just one thing each round. For example, after filming my first 3 videos, I noticed the lighting was awful. So I spent an hour learning and playing with my lighting while ignoring all other potential changes. The next round, I focused on delivery, then editing, then packaging. Each cycle got better, hopefully, but it was sustainable. And I'll be honest, I constantly fight the urge to learn more than I should. Even for this video, I'm currently working on hooks, which is the intro or the first 30 seconds of the video. But then I started to go down the scripting rabbit hole. Rest in peace to those lost 30 minutes. Fortunately, I pulled the plug before going too far. Otherwise, I would have procrastinated for way too long, and it would have ruined my entire publishing schedule. So instead, I'll wait until I feel good about my hooks. Then I'll move on to my scripting. Because that's how you turn consistency into growth without burning out. And if you're ever wondering how to balance learning with doing, spend 90% of your time taking action and 10% strategizing or learning. Here's the beauty in all of this. You start by beating procrastination, which is great, but you end by building mastery, if you stick to it. It's not hard, it's just unfamiliar, but you need to commit to the plan. And if you start slipping like I did, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on the path. And you'll be blown away with your progress 30 days from now. Here's a summary of everything I just covered to help you beat procrastination and finally make progress toward your goal. First, define a short-term goal with an outcome you can control. Second, make consistency easy by setting the bar low and taking daily action. Third, stay accountable with a tracker, accountability partner, or a community like Goal Smash. And if you join and DM me the word skateboard inside, I'll give you a free coaching call to help you where you need it most. And fourth, improve one thing at a time, spending 90% of your time taking action and 10% strategizing and learning. That's how I went from years of overthinking to 16 videos in 6 weeks. I know, it's not some wild viral goal. I didn't make $100 million in one weekend. But if you're procrastinating on a goal that you desperately want to achieve, then this is what you need. Because once you simplify the process, action becomes automatic. Now, if you want to take that momentum even further, watch my next video, the 1-minute habit that builds laser focus. It'll show you the simple practice I use every day to stay locked in once the procrastination is gone.